In the message, my grandfather was well respected. For several decades, he was the pastor of the Prophet's Church in Jeffersonville, Indiana. His sermons weren't like what you would hear in other churches. They often included stories about the prophet. We'd listen as he described the things that he witnessed in the prophet's ministry. And they were very special to us, as though extra pages in the book of Acts in the Bible. One of the prophet's sayings that my grandfather often repeated was, "You can tell the type of person you are by the company that you keep." When I thought about the prophet's early days as a minister, I pictured a young man who is active in the local religious community. Downtown Jeffersonville has some very nice church buildings. And I pictured a young prophet visiting each of them saying, "Come follow me as I follow Christ." But is this what the prophet and his associates were doing? When I learned that Roy E. Davis was running from a criminal past, and that he fled Louisville, Kentucky to Jeffersonville, Indiana to evade conviction, I began to wonder why the prophet stayed with him. The prophet said that he was ordained by Davis and began preaching in 1930. I was surprised that he remained by Davis' side as Davis's activities were made public. But I was even more surprised that more than one Davis came to Jeffersonville in 1931. Roy's brother, the Reverend Dan S. Davis, also came to Jeffersonville. And another brother, Wilburn L. Davis, joined in. If you know a person's type by the company that they keep, I wanted to know more about the company that the prophet kept. By the early 1930s, Jeffersonville was quickly growing. Over 1 million vehicles had crossed the new George Rogers Clark Municipal Bridge in 1930, bringing new and quickly growing business of automobile sales to Jeffersonville. Just north of Jeffersonville was an amusement park, Rose Island. It was a favorite place for after-service church gatherings on Sunday, until Episcopalians introduced dancing on their boat rides, after which the sterner sects segregated themselves from the more liberal Christians of the 1930s. It had an amusement park, a hotel, a swimming pool, a wooden roller coaster named the Devil's Backbone, and a Ferris wheel. It also had wolves in a pen, monkeys in a cage, and a black bear named Teddy Roosevelt. Though it would have been appealing to the youth in the prophet's first church, I couldn't picture the amusement park bringing the Davis brothers to Jeffersonville from Texas. It was time to learn more about Roy E. Davis's brothers. I found an obituary for Roy's brother Dan S. Davis in the June 15, 1949 issue of Courier-Journal. All of his 5 brothers were listed, including Roy. It mentioned that he was the head of the East Market Street Mission in Louisville. I found the charter granted for the church. It was named Bethel Rescue Mission. Using that name, I found several advertisements in the Louisville newspaper. Knowing the Ku Klux Klan's views against the Jews, one advertisement in particular caught my eye. Reverend Dan Davis preached a sermon entitled, "The Jews' Covenant with the Antichrist." I began to wonder, why did Dan start a different Pentecostal church? I found the answer in a 1939 issue of Courier-Journal. Reverend Dan Davis was arrested on charges of criminal conspiracy. Like his brother Roy, Dan was illegally trying to accumulate a large sum of money, and I wondered, where is all this money going? I found another letter to the editor of the Courier-Journal. Dan had opened a church with the name Bethel Rescue Mission, the same name many people use for the Hope Rescue Mission of the Bethel Baptist Church. Knowing that both Dan and Roy Davis had Pentecostal churches, while the prophet claimed that it was a Baptist church, the pieces of the puzzle were suddenly starting to fit together. Pentecostal Baptist and Bethel Rescue Mission were used to mislead donors. Unsuspecting people thought that they were donating to the Bethel Baptist Church Hope Rescue Mission. This raised many questions about the prophet that I hadn't yet considered. Why did he deny starting his ministry as a Pentecostal? In his life stories, it was always a Baptist minister, and a traumatic life experience in 1937 that led him to Pentecostalism. Were the life stories we heard in our churches real? I found other articles in other states with similar arrests. The Bethel Rescue Mission was the base for operations. Reverend Dan Davis and women assisting him were soliciting funds, this time using the name Bethel Rescue Mission Milk Fund. I found Reverend Dan Davis was also arrested in Newcastle, Kentucky, after which he sued Major W.O. Ulray. Somehow, Dan managed to convince Magistrate Tom Young to obtain 2 warrants for arrest. According to Davis, Ulray was interfering with operation of the mission. Dan even had attorney C.R. Turner arrested, claiming intimidation. The circuit judge Thomas Ballantyne called the evidence against Ulray revolting. Charges against the Major Ulray were dropped. The judge said that he believed Davis did not have clean hands. Shockingly, solicitors were paid 50% to collect money for the mission. At first I thought, maybe Dan Davis's operations were separate from Roy Davis. Maybe Roy wasn't involved in the mission in 1930 when the prophet joined him. But I came across this article describing Roy Davis accused of similar charges at his mission in 1930. The prophet said that he was ordained by Davis in the Missionary Baptist Church. When the prophet started preaching with Davis, the mission was to accumulate large sums of money. When I thought about the men that the prophet was associating with, and their illegal and unethical means to finance their operations, I began to wonder how long the prophet worked with them. It was time to dig deeper into the early ministry of the prophet. How long was he active with the Davis brothers? How much did they influence his doctrine? Was his evangelistic career another means to funding for Davis? Was the Branham Tabernacle just another one of many churches that Roy Davis planted?